King David is the one who wrote Psalm 30, and so I wonder if he was thinking of maybe the most famous event in David's life when he wrote, kind of near the middle of the psalm, "When I felt secure, I said, I will not be shaken." Do you know what event I'm talking about? David and Goliath. I think even people who haven't read the Bible are normally familiar with David and Goliath. If you're not, here's the very short version. So the Israelites and the Philistines were at opposite sides on the battlefield, and every morning Goliath, who was a Philistine, would come out and he would taunt the Israelites. He would say, "If anyone can take me down one-on-one, then we will become subject to you, but if I take your person down, then your whole army will become subject to us." Which sounds like maybe a fair way and a better way to to establish power in an area rather than have everybody do the fighting. But the thing about Goliath is that he was a giant. He was about 10 feet tall. He was very skilled in fighting. I don't know that he had ever lost in anything. He had a great reputation for being a very, very good soldier. And so everybody was very afraid. Everybody was afraid. This takes place in 1 Samuel chapter 17. You can read the whole incident there. And in verse 11 of that chapter, we're told that the Israelites, whenever Goliath would come out, that they were dismayed and terrified. And that word dismayed literally means like, well, it kind of gives the picture of glass being just shattered, like just beyond repair. And so dismayed as they were shattered, their hearts were shattered, they were terrified, they were afraid, and nobody would go up against Goliath. And so then this little shepherd boy, David, comes in, and he was just a little shepherd boy. He'd never served in the military before. I don't know if he had ever even worn military garb before. He tried on King Saul's, but it just wasn't a good fit. And this little shepherd boy goes up against this giant with a sling and a couple of stones. And I'm going to give away the ending here. Spoiler alert. David wins. He takes down the giant. And the Israelites are victorious that day only because David stepped in and he was not afraid, which is a big contrast to how everybody else in the Israelite army was feeling. They were feeling very afraid. And so if David is thinking about that, he says, when I felt secure, I said, I will never be shaken. I will not be shaken. How in the world did he get to a point where he felt secure and was confident that he would never be shaken? David actually gives it away when he's talking about Goliath to the king. He said, that soldier is defying the armies of God. And he recognized that it wasn't a battle between David and Goliath. It wasn't really a battle between Israel and the Philistines. It was more a battle between God and somebody who was trying to make life really difficult for the people that he loved. And not that he didn't love the Philistines, but he loved the Israelites in a special way, in a unique way. He had chosen them to be the nation that was going to endure, because through them, the Savior of the world was going to be born. A descendant of David himself, that's Jesus. And so through them, if their nation is destroyed, if they're overcome, then God breaks a promise. A promise not just to them, but a promise to you. And God does not break promises, my friends. He keeps them. And David seemed to know that. David knew that God had made a promise regarding the Savior, regarding that nation, regarding so many other things. He knew that God's reputation was on the line way more than his reputation was on the line. And God cares when his reputation is on the line. He wants to be known as a God who comes through for his people. He wants to be known as a God who saves. He wants to be known as a God who loves you. He wants to be known as a God who notices you when you're in distress. He wants to be known as a God who hears your prayers and answers them in a way that delivers. He wants to be known as those things, which is why he always will be those things. However you're feeling today, if you're feeling shaky, rattled, dismayed, worried, anxious, or like your heart is broken into a million pieces on the floor, and you don't know how you're going to pick it up again, You know your feelings don't own you. God paid a price for you. The God who makes good promises. The God who keeps every promise. You don't need to be shaken. You don't need to feel shaken anymore. Just remember who our God is. Remember who our Jesus is. Remember his wonderful promises to love you, to care for you, to forgive you, to make you his own. And then remember that Jesus shed his blood for you. He shed his blood to keep all those promises. You are unshakable, my friends, because that's what God's love for you is. Always. Rest well tonight, my friends.